My parents tried to kidnap my sister after neglecting us for 11 years. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm 17 and already a mother to an 11-year-old girl. That girl is my sister. It's not like our parents are dead or anything. They're just extremely neglectful. My mom's favorite hobby is to leave the apartment for days at a time and come back reeking of sweat and alcohol. Meanwhile, my dad's is to spend as much money on women of the night as possible while my mom was gone. Sometimes they'd engage in their hobbies together, but they always had one thing in common. They both hate us. I remember being 8 years old and asking one of my neighbors how to properly mix baby formula, just so my baby sister Emma wouldn't starve. By 12, I knew exactly what stores threw out still edible food and how to pick clean options. All I cared about was Emma. So on my 14th birthday, when my mom came home with a cupcake she stole from the deli, I immediately put it in the freezer. You see, I wanted to save it for when my sister turned 8. It had rotted so much she couldn't even eat it, but at least we had something to sing happy birthday with. And there was one big thing that Emma helped me with too, having hope. It's like she has this sort of permanent spark in her eyes. So when I finally secured a babysitting job, life got better. I remember seeing her entire face light up when we tried sushi for the first time. "You're the best sister ever," she exclaimed, making my heart melt. I had to leave straight after, and the hug she gave me was so tight I knew everything I had gone through was worth it. But just as things were looking up, it all came crashing down 10 times harder. Because when I got home, I immediately spotted smoke coming out of our apartment window. Adrenaline began to pump through my body. There were firefighters everywhere, but none of them had managed to get Emma down from the roof yet. When no one was looking, I sprinted into the building with a sleeve covering the lower half of my face. My ears were ringing and not a thought passed through my body. As soon as Emma saw me, I felt her tiny arms cling to my shoulders and she managed to escape unharmed. When we made it, I crashed. It all hit me. The shock. The burnout. But instead of coming down to open arms and water bottles, I was faced with a flood of camera lenses. Some people even had their flash on. Behind the phones, they were shouting, "You're so brave." It felt like a real-life episode of Black Mirror. I looked over to Emma, who was sheepishly facing away from it all. "Does anyone have $10? I yelled, hoping to bring Emma to the public pool so I could get her cleaned up. For a second, there was silence. OMG, this girl is so poor that she's grateful for just $10. She's a hero. None of them offered me anything that was actually useful, so I began limping to the public pool with Emma's hand in mine. They all kept cheering like I was doing it by choice rather than pure necessity. Luckily, the pool let us shower for free, but when we got back, we arrived home to something even worse than a fire. It was CPS. The social worker was a blonde woman with an artsy tote bag. Very wholesome. I tried to stand up straight and act mature. "Yes, of course we have parents. They've just been working all day." Her green eyes looked me up and down like she didn't believe me. "They'll be back in the morning once their shift is over." I tried to keep my recited lie upbeat and believable. Emma just nodded at everything I said. "And where are you guys planning on sleeping tonight?" "With our Aunt Jessica." "Okay, perfect. I'll drive you over." A wave of panic washed over me. I hadn't even seen her since I was 4 years old, but I guess this was better than being brought to a foster home. So I gave her the address and hoped for the best. When we got there, Aunt Jessica saw the social worker and forced a smile. Of course they can stay. Family is family. But the second the door closed, her entire demeanor shifted. I told her we should get Emma to bed before I started explaining. And once she was out of earshot, I broke down. I told her everything. The forced maturity, the neglect, the fire. She looked me right in the eye and said, "You've done more than anyone your age should ever have to. Your safety and happiness should have always been a priority." I felt myself choke up and sniffle to hold back tears when she said that. They were the words I'd been longing to hear ever since I was 6, and realized that it was me against the world. But her reassurance wasn't enough for me. My parents had given me a lifetime of trauma without facing any consequences, so I decided to expose my parents online and let the internet deal with them. I wasn't sure if my aunt would approve, so I waited until he went for his afternoon nap and posted what had happened without hesitation. I included everything: the abuse, the forced parenthood, and of course the borderline abandonment. By the time I hit post, tears were streaming down my face. I immediately turned my phone off because I was terrified of the consequences. And when I turned on my phone an hour later, I finally learned why people always say, "Be careful what you post online," because it went viral, but to all the wrong people. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. Emma was still asleep beside me in Aunt Jessica's spare bedroom, her face peaceful despite everything. I carefully slipped out of bed and found Jessica in the kitchen, already dressed and making coffee. "Did you sleep at all?" I asked, noticing the dark circles under her eyes. She shook her head. "Too busy making calls. My friend Lena works as a paralegal. She's helping me understand what we're facing." I poured myself a cup of coffee, savoring the rare luxury. "And what are we facing?" "Your parents filed a report claiming I kidnapped you both," she said bluntly. "They're spinning this whole story that I've been manipulating you, filling your head with lies about them." The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "That's insane. CPS brought us here." "I know, and that's our saving grace. But they're pushing hard, and they've somehow convinced other family members to back them up." A notification lit up my phone. Valerie wanted to meet us at 11 a.m. I showed Jessica the message. "That's not much time," she said, glancing at the clock. It was already 8:30. "We need to get our story straight. Not that we're lying, but we need to be consistent." While Emma showered, I checked my post. The comments had doubled overnight, and someone had created a hashtag, #Justice for Sister Mom. People were sharing their own stories of parentification and neglect. In another context, it might have felt empowering. Now it just felt dangerous. "You should delete it," Jessica advised, reading over my shoulder. "It's only giving them ammunition." "If I delete it now, it looks like I was lying," I argued. "Besides, it's already been screenshot and shared everywhere." I compromised by changing my privacy settings and blocking unknown numbers. Then I helped Emma pick out clothes from the few things we managed to grab before leaving our apartment. "Are Mom and Dad coming back?" she asked as I brushed her tangled hair. I met her eyes in the mirror. "They might try, but I won't let them take you, okay?" She nodded solemnly. "I don't want to go with them anyway. They don't even like us." Her matter-of-fact acceptance broke my heart all over again. What kind of parents make their child so certain they're unloved? Valerie arrived precisely at 11, looking even more wholesome in daylight. She carried the same artsy tote bag, but her smile seemed strained. "I've received some concerning calls," she said once we were all seated in Jessica's living room. Emma was in the kitchen, drawing pictures with colored pencils Jessica had found in a drawer. "From my parents," I guessed. She nodded. "They're claiming your aunt has been coaching you to lie about them. They say they've always been loving parents, and you've been troubled." I felt my face flush with anger. "That's ridiculous. Where were they when our apartment was on fire? Where were they when I was mixing baby formula at 8 years old?" "I understand your frustration," Valerie said carefully, "but I need to investigate all claims. Your parents have provided names of family members who corroborate their version of events." "Like who?" Jessica asked. "A cousin named Darla, an uncle named Pete, and several others." I laughed bitterly. "Darla hasn't seen us in 3 years, and Uncle Pete is my dad's drinking buddy. Of course they're backing them up." Valerie made notes in her file. "What about school records? Teachers who might have noticed signs of neglect?" I shifted uncomfortably. "We moved a lot, and I got good at covering things up. I didn't want to be separated from Emma. That's common in cases cases like yours, Valerie acknowledged, but it makes verification difficult. What about the fire? Jessica interjected. There must be reports from the firefighters, witnesses who saw her run in to save Emma while her parents were nowhere to be found. Valerie nodded. Those reports are helpful, but your parents claim they were at work, that they'd arranged for a neighbor to watch you. That's a lie. I couldn't keep the emotion from my voice. Ask any of our neighbors. They were never around. I'm trying to build a complete picture, Valerie assured me, but I should warn you. Your parents are pushing for Emma to be returned to their custody immediately. They're claiming you're a bad influence. The room seemed to tilt. They can't take her. They don't even want her. They just want to punish me. I'm not making any recommendations yet, Valerie said, but you should prepare yourselves. This could get complicated. After she left, I sat on the couch, numb with fear. Jessica brought me a glass of water and sat beside me. She believes you, she said quietly. I could tell, but she has to follow protocol. They're going to take Emma away, I whispered, just to hurt me. We won't let that happen, Jessica replied firmly, but we need to be smart about this. Your viral post gave them a reason to fight back. Their reputation is on the line now. My phone lit up with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Saw your post. I'm a lawyer who specializes in family cases. Would like to help pro bono. Call me. It was signed Marcus Reeves, Esquire. I showed it to Jessica. Could be legitimate, she said cautiously, but let me check him out first before you respond. While she made calls, I sat with Emma in the kitchen, helping her with her drawings. She'd created an elaborate scene of 3 stick figures, clearly her, me, and Jessica, standing in front of a house with a rainbow above it. Is this where you want to live? I asked gently. She nodded. With you and Aunt Jessica. She makes pancakes and doesn't yell. Such a simple bar for parental figures, making food and not screaming, yet our actual parents couldn't clear it. Jessica returned, looking slightly more hopeful. Marcus Reeves is legitimate. He's got a good reputation for child advocacy cases. I say we call him. The meeting with Marcus was set for the next morning. That night, as we were preparing dinner, a loud knock at the door made us all freeze. Jessica peered through the peephole and her shoulders relaxed. It's just a delivery. She opened the door to find a manila envelope on the doorstep. No delivery person in sight. Inside was a formal-looking document. My parents had filed for emergency custody of Emma, claiming I was mentally unstable and Jessica was an unfit guardian due to past issues. What past issues? I asked, watching Jessica's face pale as she read further. They're bringing up things from 20 years ago, she said quietly. I had some problems with depression in my 20s. Spent time in a treatment facility. Your mother visited me there once. It's the only time she ever showed me any kindness. And now she's using it against you, I said, disgusted but not surprised. There's more, Jessica continued reading. They've somehow convinced the bank to freeze my accounts claiming I stole money from them years ago. It's completely fabricated, but it'll take time to sort out. I felt the walls closing in. How can they do this? They're the ones who abandoned us. They're desperate and cornered, Jessica said, and they know exactly which buttons to push. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking on Emma, terrified someone would come take her away. Around midnight, my phone lit up with a notification. Someone had tagged me in a post. It was my mother, posting old family photos, pictures of us at the beach, at Christmas, smiling for the camera, pictures I barely remembered taking. My heart is breaking, her caption read. My troubled daughter has always had issues with lying, but now she's turned my younger daughter against me too. All we want is our family back together. Bring Emma home. The comments were flooded with sympathy for her, people calling me horrible names, accusing me of making everything up for attention. I felt sick. Those photos were staged, rare moments when my parents bothered to pretend we were a normal family, usually for relatives or when my mom was trying to impress someone new. By morning, Bring Emma Home was trending locally. My parents had launched a full social media campaign, painting themselves as victims of a vindictive teenager and a mentally unstable aunt. Marcus Reeves arrived looking exactly like what I'd expect from a lawyer. Neat suit, briefcase, serious expression, but his eyes were kind as he listened to our story. This is unfortunately common, he said after we'd explained everything. Abusive parents often appear charming to outsiders. They're experts at image management. So what do? I asked desperately. They're winning the public relations battle. We focus on facts, not public opinion, Marcus said firmly. The fire department records show your parents weren't home. School records show spotty attendance and concerns from teachers that were never addressed. And most importantly, we have Emma's testimony. I don't want Emma involved in this, I said immediately. She's been through enough. I understand your concern, Marcus replied. But at 11, her opinion carries weight with the court. We don't need her to testify publicly, but a private interview with the judge could be crucial. Jessica, who had been quiet, finally spoke up. What about my financial situation? They've somehow gotten my accounts frozen, claiming I stole from them. I can barely afford groceries now. Marcus frowned. That's a clear intimidation tactic. I can file for an emergency hearing to get that resolved, but it might take a few days. I can help, I offered. I still have my babysitting money. Jessica shook her head. You shouldn't have to support us. You've been supporting Emma for years already. It's just temporary, I insisted, until we sort this out. Marcus left us with paperwork to fill out and a court date for the following week. As soon as he was gone, Jessica's phone rang. It was her boss at the small accounting firm where she worked. I could tell from her face that something was wrong. When she hung up, she looked defeated. They're letting me go, she said quietly. Apparently someone sent them concerning information about my history of mental health issues. My parents, I said, fury building inside me. They're trying to destroy you because you're helping us. She nodded, looking more tired than I'd ever seen her. Without a job, it's going to be even harder to convince CPS I can provide a stable home. That afternoon, while Jessica was at the bank trying to sort out her accounts, Emma and I were watching TV when someone knocked on the door. Don't answer it, I told Emma, remembering the custody papers from yesterday. But the knocking continued, followed by a familiar voice. It's Valerie from CPS. I need to speak with you immediately. I opened the door cautiously. Valerie wasn't alone. A police officer stood beside her. I'm sorry, she said, and she genuinely looked it. But we've received a court order. Emma needs to come with me for a temporary placement while the custody issue is resolved. No, Emma cried, clinging to my arm. I want to stay with my sister. You can't take her, I said, blocking the doorway. Our parents don't even want her. They're just doing this to hurt me. I understand this is upsetting, Valerie said calmly, but I have to follow the court order. Emma will be placed in a temporary foster home, not with your parents, until the hearing. Please, I begged, feeling tears well up. She's never been away from me. She'll be terrified. You can visit her, Valerie assured me, and it's only until the hearing next week. Emma was sobbing now, her small body shaking. Don't let them take me. I knelt down to her level, my own tears falling. Emma, listen to me. This is just temporary, okay? I will get you back. I promise. I have never broken a promise to you, have I? She shook her head, still crying. And I won't start now. You need to be brave for a few days. Can you do that for me? She nodded reluctantly. I helped her pack a small bag with her favorite clothes and the stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was a baby. As Valerie led her away, Emma looked back at me with such trust in her eyes that I vowed I would burn the world down if necessary to keep my promise. As soon as they were gone, I called Jessica, who rushed home immediately. Then I called Marcus, who promised to file an emergency motion to have Emma returned. They're playing dirty. They weren't. Your parents must have connections to get a judge to sign that order so quickly. What connections could they possibly have? I asked bitterly. You'd be surprised. Small-town politics, old friends in the right places. It happens. That night, Jessica and I sat in her kitchen, surrounded by paperwork. We were building our case, documenting every instance of neglect we could remember. We need more evidence, Jessica said, rubbing her tired eyes. It's still mostly your word against theirs. I thought about all the years of neglect, all the times I'd covered for my parents, made excuses, hidden the truth to protect Emma and myself. Now that same secrecy was working against us. Wait, I suddenly remembered something. My old phone. I used to record voice memos sometimes when things got really bad, just to remind myself I wasn't crazy, that it was really happening. Where is it? Jessica asked, suddenly alert. In my backpack, I think. I stopped using it when the screen cracked, but I kept it because it had photos of Emma. We found the old phone buried at the bottom of my bag. The battery was dead, but Jessica found a charger that fit. When it finally powered on, I scrolled through the voice memos. There were dozens. Me quietly narrating empty cupboards. My mother screaming about how we'd ruined her life. My father threatening to kick us out if we asked for money again. The evidence we needed had been in my backpack all along. This changes everything, Jessica said, listening to the recordings with tears in her eyes. No one can hear these and still believe their lies. We sent the recordings to Marcus immediately. He called back within minutes. This is exactly what we needed, he said, sounding energized. I'm filing an amended motion first thing tomorrow. With this evidence, we should be able to get Emma back right away. For the first time in days, I felt hope, but it was short-lived. The next morning, I woke to frantic pounding on the door. It was Valerie, looking distressed. Emma's gone, she said as soon as I opened the door. She disappeared from the foster home last night. My blood ran cold. What do you mean gone? She snuck out after everyone was asleep. The foster parents called it in immediately, but there's been no sign of her. My parents, I said immediately. They took her. Valerie looked skeptical. The police are checking, but your parents claim they haven't seen her. And you believe them? I was shouting now. They're liars. They've been lying about everything. Jessica appeared behind me, putting a steadying hand on my shoulder. When was she last seen? Around 10 p.m., when the foster mother checked on her before bed. They discovered she was missing at 6 a.m. 8 hours. Emma had been missing for 8 hours. My mind raced with terrible possibilities. We need to find her, I said, already reaching for my shoes. She might be trying to come here. The police are searching, Valerie assured me. But if you hear from her, you need to let us know immediately. After she left, I turned to Jessica in panic. Emma doesn't know your address. She doesn't know how to get here. She's smart, Jessica said, though she looked worried too. And she has your phone number memorized, right? I nodded, clutching my phone like a lifeline. But hours passed with no call. Marcus arrived to help coordinate with the police, making calls to contacts he had in the department. By afternoon, my parents had joined the search, publicly at least. They gave tearful interviews to local news begging for their precious daughter to come home, the same daughter they'd barely acknowledged for years. It's all for show, I said bitterly, watching them on Jessica's TV. They probably have her hidden somewhere. The police searched their house, Marcus reminded me. No sign of Emma. Then they have her somewhere else. I was frantic now. Night was falling, and the temperature was dropping. If Emma was out there alone, my phone rang with an unknown number. I answered immediately. Emma? Not Emma, said a vaguely familiar voice. But I know where she is. Who is this? I demanded. A friend of your parents. They don't know I'm calling you. Where's my sister? She's safe for now, but your parents are planning to take her out of state tonight. They have fake IDs and everything. My heart pounded. Why are you telling me this? Because I didn't sign up for kidnapping a child, the voice said. That's crossing a line. They gave me an address. An old hunting cabin owned by my father's friend, about an hour outside town. I relayed the information to Marcus, who immediately called his police contact. We can't wait for them, I insisted, already heading for the door. If my parents see the police coming, they might run with Emma. It could be a trap, Jessica warned. I don't care. I'm not leaving Emma with them for another minute. Marcus made a quick decision. I'll drive. We'll stay back until the police arrive, but at least we'll be there. The drive to the cabin was the longest hour of my life. When we finally turned onto the dirt road leading to it, Marcus called the headlights and parked a distance away. We wait here, he said firmly. The police are 10 minutes out. But then I saw headlights coming from the cabin. A car was leaving. They're getting away. I threw open the car door and ran toward the cabin, ignoring Marcus calling after me. I reached the small wooden structure just as the car disappeared down the road. The door was unlocked. Inside, it was dark and cold. Emma? I called, my voice shaking. A small sound came from a back room. I rushed toward it and found Emma tied to a chair, a gag in her mouth. Her eyes widened when she saw me. I quickly untied her, pulling the gag away. Are you hurt? Did they hurt you? She shook her head, throwing her arms around me. I knew you'd find me, she sobbed. I knew you'd come. Always, I promised, holding her tight. I will always find you. Marcus and Jessica burst in moments later, followed shortly by police officers with flashlights. Emma clung to me, refusing to let go even as the officers asked her questions. Mom and Dad said we were going on a special trip, she told them. But I heard them talking about changing my name and never coming back. They said you'd never find me. The officer taking notes looked grim. We've put out an APB on their vehicle. They won't get far. Emma stayed in my arms as we drove back to town. The police wanted her checked at the hospital, just to be safe. As we sat in the emergency room waiting for the doctor, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Local parents arrested in kidnapping attempt. The article showed my parents being led away in handcuffs, their faces twisted with rage. For the first time in my life, I felt something like justice. The doctor confirmed Emma was physically unharmed, just exhausted and dehydrated. As we prepared to leave the hospital, Valerie appeared, looking both relieved and apologetic. I'm so sorry, she said. I should have listened to you about your parents. What happens now? I asked, still holding Emma's hand tightly. Your parents are facing serious charges. As for you and Emma, she hesitated. Given the circumstances, I'm recommending that Emma remain in your aunt's custody, with you, while we process a more permanent arrangement. Jessica stepped forward. I want to apply to be their legal guardian. Both of them. Valerie nodded. I'll help with the paperwork. As we drove back to Jessica's house, our house now, I supposed, Emma fell asleep against my shoulder. I watched her peaceful face, still not quite believing she was safe. We did it, Jessica said softly from the driver's seat. We got her back. They almost took her away forever, I whispered. The reality of how close we'd come to losing Emma hitting me all at once. But they didn't, Jessica reminded me. Because you never gave up. You've been protecting her all your life, and you didn't stop now. That night, with Emma safely asleep in the bed beside me, I finally allowed myself to breathe. My parents were in jail. They They couldn't hurt us anymore. For the first time since I could remember, I didn't have to be constantly vigilant, constantly afraid. My phone lit up with a text from Marcus. Good news. Judge has granted emergency guardianship to your aunt. Hearing for permanent custody set for next month. Your parents' bail has been denied. I showed the message to Jessica, who had been checking on us. We're going to be okay, she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. All of us. I know, I said. And for once, I actually believed it. The next morning, I woke up to Emma's arm draped across my chest, her face peaceful in sleep. For a moment, I just watched her breathe, still not quite believing we'd gotten her back. I carefully slipped out from under her arm and tiptoed to the kitchen. Jessica was already up making pancakes. Morning, she said, sliding a mug of coffee toward me. How'd you sleep? Better than I have in years, I admitted, taking a grateful sip. Any updates? She nodded toward her phone on the counter. Marcus called. Your parents are being charged with kidnapping, child endangerment, and filing false reports. The DA is pushing for maximum penalties. I should have felt triumphant, but instead, I just felt hollow. They really hate us that much. Enough to kidnap Emma and disappear forever. They hate being exposed, Jessica corrected, flipping a pancake. Narcissists can't stand when someone pulls back the curtain. Emma shuffled into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Her face lit up at the sight of pancakes, and for a moment, she looked like any normal kid on a Saturday morning, not a girl who'd been kidnapped by her own parents 2 days ago. Chocolate chips? She asked hopefully. Jessica winked and pulled a bag from behind the mixing bowl. Already ahead of you, kiddo. As we ate breakfast, I checked my notifications. I'd been avoiding social media since Emma's kidnapping, but curiosity got the better of me. I scrolled through my feed to find the narrative had completely shifted. Justice for Sister Mom was trending again, but this time with news articles about my parents' arrest. Their smear campaign had backfired spectacularly. People from school are messaging me, I said surprised. Teachers too, saying they suspected something was wrong but didn't know how to help. Too little, too late, Jessica muttered, but squeezed my shoulder to soften her words. The doorbell rang, making Emma freeze mid-bite. The fear in her eyes broke my heart. It's okay, I assured her. No one's taking you anywhere. Jessica checked the peephole before opening the door. Valerie stood there with her ever-present tote bag and a thick folder. Sorry to drop by unannounced, she said, stepping inside, but I have some paperwork that couldn't wait. We gathered in the living room, Emma sticking close to my side. Valerie spread documents across the coffee table. First, the good news, she began. The judge has expedited your aunt's guardianship petition. Given the circumstances, he's waiving several of the usual waiting periods. What about my parents? I asked. Can they fight it? They're trying, Valerie admitted, but their lawyer dropped them after the kidnapping charges. And frankly, no judge is going to look favorably on parents who attempted to flee with a child. She pulled out another form. Now, about your situation. You're 17, which complicates things. Technically, you're still a minor, but you'll be 18 in 5 months, I supplied. Right. The judge is recommending a special arrangement. You'd remain under your aunt's guardianship until your birthday, but with expanded rights, almost like an emancipated minor. I glanced at Jessica, who nodded encouragingly. That sounds good, I said, relief washing over me. No one was going to separate us. There's one more thing, Valerie continued, her expression softening. We've been contacted by several organizations that want to help. One is offering scholarships for both of you. Another has a housing program for families in transition. Emma perked up. Does that mean we can stay with Aunt Jessica forever? If that's what you all want, Valerie smiled. It is, Jessica said firmly. These girls are family. They're staying with me. After Valerie left, we spent the day setting up proper spaces for ourselves in Jessica's small house. She'd cleared out her home office for Emma, and I was taking the guest room. It wasn't much, but it was more than we'd ever had. Look what I found, Jessica called from the hallway closet. She emerged with a box of old photo albums. I thought you might want to see some family photos that don't involve your parents. We spent the afternoon flipping through pictures of Jessica when she was young, of grandparents I barely remembered, of family gatherings from before I was born. Emma was fascinated by a photo of our grandmother holding a baby. Is that you? She asked me. Jessica shook her head. That's your mom, actually. Before. Everything. I stared at the image of my mother as an innocent baby, trying to reconcile it with the woman who tied Emma to a chair. What happened to her? To make her like this? Jessica sighed. Some of it was your grandparents. They weren't kind people. Some of it was the choices she made. Substances, bad relationships, resentment. She closed the album gently. But none of it excuses what she did to you two. That evening, Marcus called with an update. My parents had been denied bail again. Their preliminary hearing was set for next week, but the evidence against them was overwhelming. What about Jessica's bank accounts? I asked. And her job? The freeze on her accounts has been lifted, Marcus assured me. As for the job, we're looking at wrongful termination options. Your parents made some pretty defamatory statements. After hanging up, I found Emma in her new room, carefully arranging her few possessions. She taped her drawings to the wall, scenes of the three of us together, always with that same rainbow overhead. You okay? I asked, sitting beside her on the bed. She nodded, then hesitated. Do we have to see Mom and Dad again? For the trial and stuff? No, I said firmly. Marcus says we can give statements without being in the courtroom. And honestly, they'll probably take a plea deal to avoid trial altogether. Good. She leaned against me. I don't want to see them ever again. You won't have to, I promised, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. The next few weeks passed in a blur of paperwork, meetings, and adjustments to our new life. Jessica's bank accounts were unfrozen, and she received a formal apology from her former employer, along with an offer to return to her job with back pay. She accepted the apology but declined the job. A new accounting firm had offered her a better position with more flexibility. My viral post had taken on a life of its own. A nonprofit focused on parentification reached out, asking if I'd be willing to share my story at their fundraiser. A book agent contacted me about a potential memoir. It was overwhelming, but also validating. All those years of suffering in silence, and now people were finally listening. Emma was thriving. She'd started at a new school where no one knew our history, and she'd already made friends. Her teacher called her bright and engaged, words that made my chest swell with pride. At night, she no longer woke up with nightmares, no longer checked to make sure I was still there. 1 month after the kidnapping attempt, we received news that our parents had accepted a plea deal. They would serve 5 years for the kidnapping charges, with additional time for child endangerment and filing false reports. They'd also permanently lost all parental rights. How do you feel about that? Jessica asked me that night after Emma had gone to bed. I considered the question, relieved mostly, but also sad, I guess. Not for them, but for what could have been. For the parents we should have had. She nodded, understanding. It's okay to mourn that loss. I don't think I ever expected them to love us, I admitted, but I didn't think they'd try to destroy us either. The next day, a letter arrived from my mother. Jessica handed it to me with a concerned look. You don't have to read it. I stared at the envelope, my name written in my mother's familiar scrawl. I think I need to. I took it to my room and sat on the bed, turning the envelope over in my hands several times before finally opening it. The letter was short. No apology, no admission of guilt, just accusations and self-pity. Blaming me for ruining their lives, for turning Emma against them, claiming they'd done their best with difficult children. The last line read, I hope you're satisfied with what you've done to this family. I didn't didn't feel anger reading it, just a profound sadness and, strangely, closure. This letter confirmed what I'd always known. They would never take responsibility, never acknowledge the harm they'd caused. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope, then tucked it into my desk drawer. Maybe someday Emma would want to read it, to understand why we were better off without them. 2 months after moving in with Jessica, the court finalized her guardianship of Emma and granted me the special status Valerie had described. I was essentially an adult in the eyes of the law, but with the safety net of Jessica's support. To celebrate, we went out for sushi. Emma's choice, of course. As we sat in the restaurant watching Emma expertly wield chopsticks, a skill she'd mastered quickly, Jessica handed me a small box. "What's this?" I asked, surprised. "Open it and see." Inside was a key on a rainbow keychain. "You already gave me a house key," I said, confused. "It's not to the house," she explained. "It's to a car. Nothing fancy, just a reliable used Honda. But I figured you'd need your own transportation for college visits." I stared at her, speechless. College had always seemed like an impossible dream, something for other kids whose parents saved for their education. "I can't afford college," I said finally. "Actually, you can," Jessica smiled. "Remember that scholarship Valerie mentioned? It came through. Full ride to any state school. And there's a similar one for Emma when she's ready." I felt tears welling up. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll go," she urged. "You've put your life on hold for Emma long enough. It's time for you to have your turn." "But what about Emma?" I glanced at my sister, who was happily dipping a California roll in soy sauce. "I'll be right here with her," Jessica assured me. "And you'll visit often. Plus, there are these amazing inventions called phones and video calls." Emma looked up, catching the end of our conversation. "You should go to college," she said matter-of-factly. "You're super smart, and I'll be okay with Aunt Jessica." The simple confidence in her voice, the absolute certainty that she would be cared for, that I deserved to move forward, broke something open inside me. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future where I wasn't solely responsible for keeping Emma safe, where I could pursue my own dreams without guilt. 3 months after moving in with Jessica, I started my senior year at a new high school. The guidance counselor helped me apply to colleges, and I joined the school newspaper, discovering a talent for writing I never knew I had. Emma joined the science club at her school and made her first ever best friend, a girl named Lydia who lived down the street. They had sleepovers and inside jokes and all the normal childhood experiences I'd always wanted for her. Jessica's new job was going well, and she'd started dating a kind man named David, who brought us homemade bread and taught Emma how to play chess. Our story continued to spread. The nonprofit fundraiser where I spoke raised enough money to help dozens of families in situations like ours. My channel, where I'd posted updates about our journey, had thousands of followers. People sent messages saying our story had given them courage to leave their own abusive situations. On my 18th birthday, Jessica and Emma threw me a real party, my first ever. As I blew out the candles on a cake that wasn't stolen or rotten, I made a silent wish for our future. Not for anything specific, just for this feeling to continue, this sense of safety, of belonging, of finally being home.